Good morning. I usually get up there, but why not be down here with the folks? How are ya? Good to see you. Hey, this is more fun. Hello. I'm Kathianne Lewis here at the Center for Spiritual Living. Great to have you here. You know, I was trying to always think of a way to explain who and what we are, but briefly, I think we are a place where you learn to live a more spirit-centric life. Because whatever you put in your center, it's going to run you. And I know that I've been run by things. How many have been run by things? Well, things seem to go better with spirit. Just saying. So it's sometimes hard to phase out of that and into this. So spirit-centric. We practice being spirit-centric. And if that appeals to you, then I encourage you to fill out a connection card. It looks like this. I love this. This is so magic. Connection card. Connection. Oh, what? My finger's not working. Connection card. It worked first service. Okay, good. Yay! Okay, I feel like I'm Harry Potter and my wand broke. Anyway, so fill out a connection card. It will allow you to be on our virtual community list because there's a lot of things that I can't talk about. We can't talk about too short a time. But there's a lot of things going on. You'll find out about those things and all the ways that we can support you, not just today, but throughout the week and with online programs and other things. So feel free to fill that out. Those cards are available in the seat backs in front of a lot of you. And if they're not in the seat backs in front of you, they will always be in the collection basket as it goes by later. So pick one up, fill it out. Return it to me or anyone with a name tag, and we'd love to have you be part of our virtual community. So, lots is going on. And if you're into Facebook, let people know where you are. Eventually they may ask, what are you doing? What are you doing Sunday mornings? Why are you there? What is this Center for Spiritual Living? Is it a spa? Do they teach yoga? Yes. We are a spiritual spa, and we teach you how to do spiritual practices. So, tell them anything. But mainly, I think it's good. We're here to discuss the goodness of something greater than ourselves. We're not here to discuss the badness of anybody. Because if there is a goodness and we're a part of it, we too are good. And so is the essence of every single person. We're here to talk about good stuff. And if they want good stuff, they can come. If they don't want good stuff, they should really stay away. So let people know what you're doing, and also like us on Facebook if you don't, like our page, because we send out these beautiful little affirmations and other things, and you can be a part of that. So just letting you know. Those are the things I want to let you know. Oh, and Cal's here. Yay, my Portuguese friend. Yeah. Oh, you have fans. This is the part where we just celebrate good stuff. And one of the good things is you're here. You are on this planet. I mean, not just here. You're on this planet. And it's a good thing. See, we teach that God didn't have just a few special people. All people are important, unique, and powerfully significant on this plane of existence. So, to celebrate you, if you're having a birthday, we will have a gift for you. So if you're having a birthday, wave your hand, or both hands, or stand up, whatever works for you. Get our attention. There's a birthday way over there. Woohoo! Hey. I should be dancing. So, a few months ago, we expanded this celebration of life into a greater celebration of life. So if you've got good things that are going on in your life, we want to hear about it because it's really fun to hear good things. So anyone have something they want to celebrate? Oh, well, have you noticed it's always on this side? Think of something quick. Okay, yes.
I was planning on trading my car in September, and Friday I went into the dealership to get an oil change, found the car I wanted that was a year older, bigger, had a rooftop carrier and a trailer hitch, exactly what I wanted, no blind spot. And I am now driving it.
Woo! Did you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay.
I provide a monthly meal to the Nyars Ernest House, And yesterday we had, I think, one of the best meals we've ever done before. And I had great volunteers, and it just went, I want to say slick as snot, but that's not quite the right one.
I think it's real important, the metaphors you choose when speaking of food. But I really love it. Jonathan decided, I don't know, 2 years ago, that he was going to do a meal for it's homeless, right? Transitional housing once a month. So they get a really great, fabulous meal by the chef once a month. I mean, they get other meals, but he provides a great meal once a month.
Thank you. Grateful this morning for a divine health recovery.
Whoa! We love this. Yes. Okay. On the way there, thank you. Yes.
I walked into the Coach store yesterday and got handed a coupon for 50% off anything in the store.
I believe in miracles. Notice the ones that are laughing, they understand. Go ahead.
I survived my 89th birthday 2 days ago and shooting for 100.
Did you get a birthday card too, a gift?
I'm sorry?
He should have got a gift. 89 years, you didn't stand up. Get a gift. No, wait, Bill, we've got more for you. All of this and door number 1. Anyone else? Good news, things that you want to share. Doesn't it feel good to hear good news? Yes, it's good. You got to celebrate somewhere.
Well, for the first time, I applied for a scholarship, and I got a $1,000 scholarship. Yay!
That is lovely. I'm really grateful. I know you use it, and it will go to, yes.
My wife and I, Maria, are about to celebrate our first anniversary, and as a result of my relationship with her, I'm a member of this community now.
That is very nice. Very nice. We had a couple first service that were celebrating 60 years together. So you've only got 59 more to go. I figured out if I live to 110, I too can celebrate 60 years of marriage. Ooh, this is good. But isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Anyone else? Okay, way back here, and then that'll be our end.
I was taking my boat out yesterday, and when I dumped it in the water, I pulled the trailer out, and the wheel came off. And I left it in the parking lot, and I didn't know what to do because I'd promised to take some people out on the boat. So we went out on the boat, and I made a couple of phone calls, about 4 phone calls, bobbing around in the water. And there was a man that came in the 90-degree weather and changed the wheel and put the bearings on, and I just stayed out till 5 o'clock and came back and just drove home. But I did pray about it.
Oh, did you hear she did pray about it?
I asked for assistance.
Yes,
yeah.
That's good. Let's see, that's a pretty good miracle. I prayed, sat in the boat with my friends, and the wheel got fixed while I was gone. Oh, this is good. So let's take a deep breath. It's good to hear good things. It's good to hear about recoveries. It's good to hear about support. It's good to hear about love. All of that's good. So think about your good. Sometimes we can think, well, what's going on isn't that significant. All good is good. So allow your mind to dwell on those things of good report. Breathe that in. Sit in it. Sit in it. Just sit in the focused recollection of some good in your life. And so we will move from good to silence. And in the silence of our own heart, we just open ourselves up to more of that experience of good. And then we'll hear a beautiful song, and then a lovely prayer by Reverend Bob Calkins.
Continuing in prayer, I invite you to go to that place within where you feel the closest to Spirit, the warmth of your inner self. Let's take the few moments to be there in that quiet spot. And easing back, I invite you to remember to do this from time to time throughout the week ahead. And so it is.
So let me tell you what I was going to talk about until I drove here. Yeah, we're going to work out our schedules, really. So I had a great talk. It's all highlighted and everything. And the talk title today is to have a little pride, or a lot of it, and I really want to say that I'm very happy for the shifts that we've seen just recently, and the ability for all people to be married the way they choose to be married. Well, at least most of the time. I mean, I guess there's still some things you can't do, but otherwise, I love this. It's an expanded expression of equality, which is really about dignity. Equality is really about dignity. Everybody should be able to have the dignity of the same rights as other people. I mean, really, that's what it's all about, and I'm very happy for that. And I wanted to talk about my experience, and I know you have your own experience of the unfoldment of this process, because it hasn't happened overnight. It took time. And I could share my experience, but that's not what God wanted me to talk about. So I'm going to tell you another story, but maybe I was going to give you some barn wisdom too. I'm going to do a book on barn wisdom. Wisdom from the farm. But I'll insert it somewhere. No wonder a lot of people would retreat and go into nature, because nature's always telling us something. If you just pay attention, it has a lot of wisdom and a lot of things it wants to share. So I'll just insert it. And if at the end of this talk I haven't told you what I learned in the barn, somebody bring it up, okay? You have permission to say, what about the barn? Okay, so this morning, as I was driving, I wanted to tell you another story. I was going to tell you my story and my experience and that sort of thing. And but I was going to, the only word that's coming right now is coerced, but that's probably not a good one. Sorry. I have been inspired to share with you another story, and that's the story of Esther. Every once in a while, you just got to tell the story of Esther. It's just such a great story. And I'm not going to be incredibly accurate, but I'm going to be much more entertaining than if you read it in the Bible. So let me just tell you. There was a king. Once upon a time, there was a king, and he was like kings of old. He had all power. And as it turned out, he had this queen, who also thought she was a queen. But she didn't come to him when he wanted her to, so he got all upset and said, oh, you go off, you stay there, I don't want to ever see you again, I'm getting a new queen. So he had a beauty contest. And all the sweeties and honeys of the land came, sashaying through, looking their best. And he sort of got enamored with, because I don't think he fell in love with, but he became enamored with this little cutie pie. Probably had dark hair, brown eyes, gorgeous. And so he said, she's the one. And it was Esther. Now, Esther came from a group of people who were kind of living underground. They didn't want to cause too much commotion or be too noticeable because they were Jewish. And they were living in exile, and it was really not a cool thing to be Jewish. It's sort of like from where I come from, it wasn't cool to come from Springfield. Thus, I always say I'm from Eugene. So she was kind of like that. She was Jewish, didn't want to promote it too much, so she sort of kept it a secret. She did not tell the king or anyone or the courtiers or anyone because, A, she probably wouldn't have been selected as queen, and definitely nobody would have voted for her when they said, oh, yeah, she would have gone from a 10 to a 7. So she kept it a secret. There's a moral to this story, really. The problem is that there were people in the courts that sometimes were so prejudiced and biased that they were looking for reasons to not like Jews. And as it turned out, one gentleman made one of the courtiers upset. He did something, who knows, stepped on his foot. It was probably like one of those Western brawl scenes. Hey, did you look at me funny? No, I didn't look at you funny. Yes, you did. So this is entertaining, right? Much more entertaining than reading the book. So the courtier was so upset with this man, this Jewish guy, that he said, I'm going to get all of you killed. You're a plague. You're awful. There's something wrong with all of you. So he went to the king and he says, I think they should all die. And the king, he was busy doing other things. He says, oh, okay, fine. Let's kill them. That's what happened. I read the book. Well, one of the leaders in the Jewish group happened to also be the uncle of Esther. So Mordecai sneaks over to Esther and says, Esther, you've got to do something here. And she says, what can I do? I can't even go in to see him unless he calls me. It's absolutely forbidden that anyone walk in to see the king. And unless he calls me in, I can't even talk to him. Besides that, I don't even feel Jewish. I don't feel so Jewish. I'm not so Jewish. I don't even have faith. You have faith. I don't have any faith. What's this Jewish thing? And besides that, even if I was called in and I had faith, he's not going to listen to me because he's already signed this decree. I can't do anything. And Mordecai said, this is powerful, powerful. Perhaps for this purpose you were created. Perhaps for this purpose and this time you were created. This whole month we're talking about purpose, and sometimes your purpose doesn't show up right away. It certainly didn't for Esther, because I doubt the purpose was so that she could be the queen. Maybe. But what is it that she would do with that being the queen? So as it turns out, Mordecai says, if you don't do this, all of your people will die. Now, she didn't exactly feel Jewish, but she couldn't let everyone die. On the other hand, she couldn't go in and see the king because she might die. Really, the law was you don't go into his chamber, a room that he's in, without being called, or you're killed. I know, and we think we have bad laws. So she's in a bad spot. She's faced with her death or the death of everyone she knows that she grew up with, her clan. What does she do? Well, she was very wise. She decided to take 3 days and pray and meditate and prepare herself to go see the king. 3 days. 3 days to go from, I'm an insignificant nobody who happens to be pretty, so I'm the queen, to I have the power to save a whole group of people. That's kind of a leap. So when I get back here, we're at the leap, right? You'll remind me? Thank you, Bobby. Because I'm going to go over here, and now let's talk about barn wisdom. I've noticed this for the 8 years that we've lived on the ranchette, and it finally occurred to me. I mean, I've watched it and been amazed by it, but it finally occurred to me what's really happening with the hatching, the growth, and development of barn swallows. Now, let me tell you a little bit about barn swallows. Their eggs are about this big, tiny, tiny. I've seen the little blue shells, tiny little shells. They live in a little teeny tiny nest. From the time they hatch to the time they are flying, I shouldn't say, from the time they hatch to the time they're falling out of the nest and learning to fly is 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 18 days, not even 3 weeks. 18 days. From this to this. 18 days. Now, it's always boggled my mind, but it finally occurred to me, the reason that can happen is because Mama and Daddy Swallow are flying all over, getting those little teeny-tiny gnatty things. You know those little gnats you kind of go through? Well, they're really all over a barn. And the swallows are going zip, 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 zip. They are from dawn to dusk. Zip, 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 zip. Eating, feeding, flying, feeding. So that in 18 days, they can go from this to this. That's a miracle. How can it happen? Because of so much food. They are being fed all the time. They're on constant nurturing. I sometimes wonder why it takes me or anyone I'm around so long to shift out of something, to grow into who we are. And maybe it's because we don't allow ourselves some heavy-duty spiritual food to really immerse ourselves in an idea that will transform us, like those little babies are immersed in being fed. Just, this is the illustration I gave first service. I almost feel like that this kind of immersion is like, you need so much, and you need it so quickly. It's so different than an affirmation a day. They're sweet, they're wonderful. You know, I download them too. I get sent little affirmations a day, little good thoughts. It's not going to grow me, not quickly. Yes, over time, it will make a difference. But if you really need to shift, you got to do some serious time. Now, this might be because your health is at risk, your job is at risk, your marriage is at risk, your body's at risk. I don't know what it will be, but it's going to take this. So back to Esther. She gave herself 3 days, and I think she was doing that. She was doing barn swallow time. And she fasted from everyone. She was not talking to anyone. She shut the door. Jesus says, go into your closet. They didn't have closets. That's a translation that becomes a closet. Are you kidding? Those people didn't even have a lot of clothes, let alone a closet. Anyway, it meant to remove yourself. Remove yourself from the hubbub. Find a solitary space. Go there. So she went into her solitary space and fasted from food and thought until she could allow herself to contemplate if there was a God, because she wasn't even sure there was. And if there was a God, could it do anything? And if there was a God and it could do something, could it do something through her? And at the end of 3 days, without hesitancy, without a big hoopla, without a lot of pray for me, she opened the door to the hall in which her husband and king were, and she walked in. And he greeted her. Oh, Esther, how beautiful you are. I will give you anything. Now, you'd think that would be a wide open little space, wouldn't you? Now, if this was going to be just any old novel, this would be the end of it. No, this is a good story. It's got to have some ups and downs. What happened was she found herself saying, "Would you come to dinner at my palace tonight?" And he said yes. She didn't find herself pleading for her people. "Would you come to my palace?" He did. He had a wonderful time. The next morning, that's what it says. He says, "Once again, what can I do for you? I will give you anything." And she said, "Well, come again tonight." She found herself not saying what you'd think she would say. She was so filled with spirit that she was being directed by spirit to do things that the head would not have figured out. As it turns out, when the king leaves, he finds some evidence to show that the Jewish gentleman who had offended the courtier had saved his life. He finds out. He saw something that showed that he saved his life. So he calls him in. He says, "My goodness, you saved my life. I'll give you anything. What do you want?" "Well, I'd really like you to set my people free." "Well, of course." Now, you might think, this is the deal. You might think that Esther didn't bring about the miracle of the Jews being set free because she didn't do anything. But maybe she did everything. Because isn't this kind of the way your prayers work sometimes? You do your work, you pray, you want something, and it comes around the back door. It comes in this way. But what was the cause? The effect is you get the prayer, but perhaps your prayers and your consciousness and your shifting is the cause for it to happen that way. Why is it that the king all of a sudden saw this evidence? What was different? Except somebody decided to stand up for what she believed in, and what she believed in was her people. So she opened the door and took a huge risk. I was going to tell you about my experience of living in Eugene and truly being naive and 40 years ago, not understanding what gays and lesbians were. I mean, I heard, but I didn't really understand them. I certainly never met one, I'm sure, because I was in Eugene. Even in Springfield, they didn't have them. There wasn't a one in all of Oregon. They weren't born in our state. And the surprise I had when I moved here 35 years ago and moved to Capitol Hill, and the stuff I had to go through because guys didn't look at me anymore. It's painful. Now, you can laugh about that, but let me tell you another story, and this is not a secret. I'm going to use someone else's story, but it's okay because she put it on Facebook. You put it on Facebook, I'm going to talk about you. If it serves my purposes. This comes from Allison Hughes, who said 40 years ago she was a therapist and could never, ever share who she was with anyone. She would have been immediately fired. At that time, even though she was a therapist, to be gay was considered in the books as a mental illness. It was illegal and immoral and a sin that no one wanted to talk about. It was hard to find any support, and it was hard to go to any kind of family function with no one as your date or your mate or your friend. And things have shifted. You know what happened for our beloved gay, lesbian all those things. You know what happened for that community? The plague that was of hate that was affecting the Jews broke out when it became, just a dire thing. Someone has to open the door to the freedom of the Jews, and what opened the door, the tragedy that made people open doors, was this thing called AIDS. And people needed support, and they needed their families, and they needed love. And so just as Esther opened the door to the king, not knowing if she would live or not, so many people opened the door to their family home, walked through and shared who they were, not knowing what the reaction would be. And many got blasted, but probably more than that, hearts broke, but they broke open. And nobody really broke down. And they picked themselves up, and love started to weave itself through the fabric of our society. Because people started to say, this is who I am. I'm afraid, but more of afraid of what's on that side of the door is who I will become if I don't open that door. And love spread in so many directions that state after state after state after state, and thank God Washington's one of those states because you had all the gays in Oregon, didn't? State after state after state started to recognize dignity, the dignity of every human being to be who they are. And I believe that's why the Supreme Court decided in favor of marriage equality. It didn't come down, it came up. I believe in trickle up. I always have believed in trickle up. I believe that as people change, leadership changes. It has to. I watched something that said when enough states get to a certain place, whether it was the women's right to vote or you probably saw it, a bunch of stuff, a bunch of things that we made major decisions on. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of more freedom and more equality when a lot of the states had already done the same. When the consciousness changed, somehow laws change. It's always trickle up, but people have to be willing to be who they are, to say what they want, to say what they need. So that's the story of Esther. What I've learned through seeing that story and watching so many of my friends go through so much, I wish some of them had lived to see this day. Because many didn't. But all of them did something tremendous because they broke my heart open so I could be who I am today. The thing that I've learned about this evolution so that we can get to the place where people can have similar rights is that I think it really worked because individuals like Esther had to own their own unique power and gift. They had to own that they were a good person where they are. Just like Esther had to own, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I am now myself. And I can do this. And if you own yourself and your own uniqueness and your own innate goodness, not from anything you've done, because heavens to Betsy, just this morning I was going through all the things I've done wrong. I mean, sometimes I have flashbacks. Like, I wish I hadn't done that, wish I hadn't done that, wish I hadn't done that. But through all of that, my own unique self, that which was incarnated, is good. And if I can know that about myself, then I can know that about you. then all I can see is good in you. So through this process of going from totally hidden, we don't talk about it, have a hidden life like Esther did, to being out and having a pride parade. And not only that, celebrating a huge monumental shift in history. From this to this, people learn to value themselves, they learn to value others, and here's the most important thing. This is the thing that Ernest Holmes would be so happy about. He'd say something about it. I watched this whole thing evolve because people were for something and against nothing. They were for equality, not against traditional marriage. I am for marriage equality. I mean, everybody should have a right to divorce. Really? How many of you have ever been divorced? Everybody has that right, should have that right. Because if you have the right to be married, you have the right to be divorced. I saw way too many people hurt so badly because a person that they had no legal ties to could take the house, take the dog, take the job, take the, Divorce gives you you have to talk. You gotta, even if it's through attorneys, you gotta talk. Everybody has that right. You should be able to work this out. And I'm definitely not against traditional marriage. If I'd been against traditional marriage, I would have given up many years ago. I'm for it. I'm for it all. Being for something and against nothing is the opportunity to open up and let something beautiful happen through you, like it happened through Esther. Like all those people who opened up changed us, as changed our nation. Now there's still some holdouts. That's okay. Love is going to win. It's spreading. It's going to happen. But we won't make it happen. You can't legislate. You can't legislate appreciation. But the more we open up, the more our spirit stirs up in all these different areas. We got to be for something and against nothing. Now let me give you an illustration. If you want different finances, you have to not be against your current finances. Take a deep breath. If you're for health, you cannot be against your current health situation. If you want to change your body, you cannot be against your current body. If you want a new career, you can't be against the one you have now. If you want new social issues, if you want new social situations, you can't be against this current social situation. Does that make sense? Because if you're against it, guess what? That against has energy. We all know it, don't we? What are we going to say? Resistance is futile. You can learn so much from Star Trek. Resistance, and what we resist persists. Resistance is an energy. You think you're pushing? No, you're holding. Resistance, what we resist, will continue on and on and on. Now, let me give you an illustration. When I moved actually, I did live in Eugene then. I moved out of Springfield as soon as I could and moved across the river into Eugene. So I had a different zip code. So really, when I say I'm from Eugene, it's true because that was my latest address in Oregon. When I worked for a national company and made the same amount of money when I transferred from Eugene to Seattle. In Eugene, I was living the good life. In Seattle, I was barely making it because of just the difference in standard of living. So I moved into what was a fairly good little apartment. I wasn't looking at the other person's window anymore. But it left me with very, very little money. Very little money. I had enough money for rice and, sauteed mushrooms for dinner and gas. And I didn't have any place to eat anyway because I didn't move up here with a table, so I had no table, and I didn't figure out a way to get a table. I was looking at all the ways I could maneuver and maybe how long it would save, and I just didn't have a table. I didn't see a table in my future. And so I remember thinking, all I want to do is just to be able to have a table. And I'm just way too poor to have a table, and I'm really sick of being this poor. So I said, I'm fine with this, but God, I want you to get me to the place of being rich. Now, rich for me meant I could buy a table. Rich means I can have what I want when I want. I want a table, I want to be able to buy a table. I got to the place of surrender and acceptance of where I was, and yet I was accepting of what could be. This is what non-resistance is. It's actually accepting where you are and being accepting of what could happen. Because if I resist what's now happening, I can't possibly be open to what could happen. Do you see the difference? So, in your prayer work, look to see if you are fighting something or if you're willing to open up to something. It makes all the difference. One of the stumbling blocks for any of us could be we're fighting instead of moving towards. Any questions about that? That's why I'm down here with a microphone. No questions? Okay, sweetheart.
So, will you give us some words to craft the prayer to shift from the resist to the open?
You're so smart. It could be something like this. Oh, the question was, what are the words to shape the prayer so we stop resisting? Is that it, Vicki? Okay. So it might be something like this. I bless where I am now. You've done all those other steps, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. For those of you that are in Beyond Limits, blah, 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 here we go. I accept where I am. Where I am is good. I am now open to a greater good that includes this. So we're not negating where we are, but we're opening up. And in a way, it's really good to know when you're finished. It's a blessed thing. You get to say you're finished with something, but it doesn't mean you're against it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like you finish first grade so you can go to second grade. You finish high school so you can go to college. Finish college so you can go to graduate school. Then you finish graduate school so you think you might get a job. And does that make sense? It's okay to say I'm finished, but all of that came before wasn't wrong, was it? So I really could feel in my mind, back to the tables thing, I wasn't in a bad spot. I had outgrown my life in Eugene. I was here, and I was kind of like those little birds that are on the edge of the nest, and they want to fly, and the nest had gotten way too small, and I was living too small a life, and I'm done with living a small life. So now I'm ready to go to this. So in a way, you're blessing and you're opening and starting to leap. But you cannot make the nest you're in wrong. You can't make this wrong. Because God operates through goodness and truth. And you call something bad, and you just like, okay, then you're on your own. Right, if you find work. That was a joke. You see? Does that help, Vicki? Yeah. So I bless it, and this is good, and I'm open to greater good. As it turns out, from that time, I've always had what I wanted when I wanted it. I may not have surplus, I may not have other things, but if I really want something, somehow the money shows up. My assistant once said, well, I can see, this was about 10 years ago, I can see that you have a lot of trips planned because all this money's coming into you. And I get unexpected money because if I wanted to take a trip, the money showed up. It's the way it is now because I'm done being poor. Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? And thank you, I think that helped a lot of people, Vicki. Anyone else?
To go a little deeper with that, then how do we love what is?
Well, how do you think you'd love what is?
Look for the blessing. Doesn't always work, but...
We'll look for the blessing and? Oh, I wouldn't bug just anybody, but he does know.
I guess talk to God about it.
Yeah?
See the joy in it. Experience the joy.
Yeah, you bless it. You find the joy in it. It's, you know, this is...
Because I find that I'm stuck in againstness unless I'm really loving it and not thinking about loving it. It's just...
Loving it.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to have to love it. And part of loving it is to bless it. Yeah. And it may not be, you know, overtly love it. Boy, I hope I stay here forever. Gee, whoa, if there's one thing I really like, it's struggle. You know? It might be, if that's the issue, you pray a little longer. Father, Mother, God within, help me love this situation so that I can let it go. Or it could just be, I bless this situation. It has grown me to where I am, and I'm so grateful that it's my launching pad to something else. But it's to honor. I mean, you know, you may not, love is such a weird word because it can mean so many different things. I don't know that I loved not having a table. I don't know that I loved eating rice and mushrooms 5 days a week, but I could honor it. Like, wow, I took myself out of Eugene, and I honor that I'm going for a bigger life. Do you see how you could honor it without loving it? Just try that on. Because it's important, because we will all get to the place where Spirit says, guess what? It's time to grow. Just like for those little barn swallows, nature says, guess what? Get out of the nest because your mama's pregnant. She's getting laying more eggs real soon. So go. And so, sure enough, as soon as those swallows are gone, there's new eggs. And we start the whole process again. So there's so much to go for. Let's move into prayer. And we will pray to release resistance. And we'll pray to accept a greater good. And when I say we, I'm going to use some words, but I'm going to have some blank spaces in my sentences, and I want you to insert what you will. So let's just begin by recognizing, you know, all that blah, blah, blah I talked about. Let's do that now. Let's recognize that there's one life, and that life is God's life. And that life is the impulsion to grow, to develop, to become. That life is what sustains us. That life is what encourages us. That life is what will fulfill us. There is one life. It is God's life. And it's acting through me and through everyone in this room right now. And so I speak my word that we are allowing life, an opportunity to become through us. And we honor that becoming and that blossoming and that unfolding. Oh, I'm so grateful for this. So I speak my word that individually and collectively, we are accepting the place we are right now. We accept it. Resistance is falling away because the Borg were right. Resistance is futile. We let resistance fall away and we accept this now moment, this present time, and our current situation. And in this attitude of openness and acceptance, we allow the Spirit of truth to show us our greater yet to be. And we accept that as well. We accept that we are now moving in a trajectory to a greater sense of freedom, a greater sense of fulfillment, and a greater sense of satisfaction. And so I bless where we are, I bless where we're going, and I bless the process of getting there. I bless it all because I know that all of it is good. Bless means to recognize the good, and I know that God is in all of it. And so I give thanks that we allow ourselves to be moved along easily, effortlessly, gently, beautifully, poetically, artistically, powerfully. And if this prayer is your prayer, if you choose to have my words be your words, easily and effortlessly, and in your heart of hearts say yes. And let the unfoldment begin. And so it is. Will the ushers please come forward? And while they're coming forward, I want to remind all of you that on July 24th, one of my favorite days, it's our talent and art show. So save that date. It's exciting. Yes, you'll be here. And the art show officially opens at 6:30. And I think the talent show is a little bit later, but we have a call out for all of you that have visual art. We have a performing artists in the congregation, but if you have visual art, please sign up by July 5th, which is next Sunday. It's very important. So they plan it all out. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous gallery. So you can find out more information about that at our community corner, which is out these doors and slightly to your right. Then let's see, what else? Oh, next week, we have the New Thought Recovery meeting at 9 o'clock. And then next week, we have the men's group at 11 o'clock. So either go to the first service and come to second, or second service come to first. I don't know, you'll work this out. If you're a man in recovery, you can go to both meetings. So we'll give you a 2-for stamp and you'll have fun. And there's lots of other recovery groups and other things happening. So that's one of the reasons to fill out a connection card so we can make sure that you know about everything that's happening. And on the back of your program, you'll find out about some classes that are starting very soon, the 1st of July. And all of them are great, especially Mike Bogar's got some classes. I mean, just things you don't want to miss. So let's just take a deep breath. And let us let the Spirit of Esther come upon us. I'm going to do it a little aside because I can. I became intrigued with Esther about 2 years ago and honestly thought that I was being called to write a Esther rock opera. And then I went to Eugene. They don't have any gays, but they got a lot of talented people, and I was going by the Holt Center, which is kind of like their convention center, and they had Esther, the rock opera ballet. No, the gospel rock opera ballet, and I thought, it's complete. God, it's all complete now. I guess I'm just saying that if you have an idea, it's being birthed. And so take that idea and birth it in yourself, or someone will. So what are you being asked to open the door to? What are you being asked to move into? Find out who you are and let Esther and all of that power and that self-assuredness and that purpose and that spirit-filled life be in you too, and open the door to your greater yet to be, because every time we open a door, we open doors for everybody. You cannot open a door for just yourself. It's impossible because we're all one. So open, 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 open. I'm supposed to be asking for money now. Oh, and give money. And so it is.